Look, one view is enough. And hear me out. I know that probably sounds ridiculous, because social media has spent years convincing us that if your video doesn't get thousands of views, it failed. But I think that's the real problem. Social media didn't just change what we see, it changed how we measure success. It convinces us we're falling behind when we're actually making progress. It turns every accomplishment into a comparison and makes us quit things we genuinely love because they don't look impressive enough online. I know that because it almost made me quit something that I've wanted to do since I was a kid. By the end of this video, my goal is to convince you to stop measuring success the way social media taught you to, and show you why sometimes just one view is enough. Ever since I was a kid, I've wanted to be a YouTuber. Not because I wanted to be famous, I just loved the idea of making videos that could entertain people or teach them something that genuinely made their lives better. So, I started a channel, then another, then another. Every single one followed the same pattern. I'd get excited, find a new niche, upload consistently, start building some real momentum, and then I'd quit. For years, I couldn't figure out why. If this was something I'd wanted for so long, why did I keep giving up? Then one day, it finally clicked. It wasn't because making videos was hard. It wasn't because I didn't enjoy creating. It was because I had completely changed how I measured success. I'd spend 6 or 7 hours writing, filming, and editing a video just to upload it, refresh YouTube Studio every 15 minutes, and see 11 views and 2 likes. At the time, those 11 views felt embarrassing. I almost deleted the video. I almost quit the channel. Because social media had convinced me that 11 people wasn't enough. Looking back, I realized those were the only 11 people that mattered. I just didn't know it yet. Somewhere along the way, I stopped asking, did I make something valuable? And started asking, was this bigger than someone else's? Comparison really is the thief of joy. It stole the entire reason I started making videos in the first place. And I don't think this is just a YouTube problem. I think social media has made all of us forget how to celebrate progress. When this channel reached 10 subscribers, I was genuinely excited. Think about that for a second. 10 real people watched my videos and decided, yeah, I'd like to see more from this guy. That's incredible. That's the reason I'm doing this. But social media immediately whispers, cool, but somebody else has 200 subscribers, or 2,000, or 2 million. And suddenly, your accomplishment doesn't feel like one anymore. That same thing happens everywhere. You save your first $100. Someone online has $100,000 invested. You run your first mile. Someone else just finished a marathon. You lose your first 5 pounds. Someone posts their 6-pack transformation. And I'd be willing to bet you've compared some aspect of your life to someone online this very week. I know I have. But the moment you compare your beginning to someone else's highlight reel, you rob yourself of the motivation to continue. Because it just feels like you're so far behind. When I hit 10 subscribers, I was pumped. And instead of comparing myself to others, I set a new goal that I was aiming for. Somewhere along the way, social media convinced us that we're supposed to be embarrassed by beginnings. But every creator you admire had to start in the exact same spot. Social media completely distorts time. We constantly watch people announce, I made my first million. I lost 100 pounds. I retired at 22. What we almost never see are the 6 years before that. The failed businesses, the abandoned projects, the workouts nobody recorded, the thousands of boring repetitions that success is actually built on. Social media shows us the outcomes, but it rarely shows us the entire process. So after watching enough success stories, we start wondering why our own progress feels so slow. The truth is, it probably isn't. You're just comparing your chapter 2 to somebody else's chapter 20. And if we're always measuring ourselves against chapter 20, we'll never appreciate writing chapter 2. 20 years ago, the people you compared yourself to mostly lived in your town. However, today, before you've even had breakfast, you've compared yourself to millionaires, Olympic athletes, professional creators, fitness influencers, world travelers, celebrities, all before 9 a.m., just by scrolling on your phone. Then you look around at your completely normal Tuesday and wonder why your life feels so ordinary. But of course it does. You're comparing your everyday life to the best moments of thousands of strangers. No wonder it feels like everyone else is ahead. And I think creators fall into this trap more than anyone. Somewhere along the way, we stopped asking, will this help someone? And started asking, will the algorithm push this? Those are completely different questions. One focuses on impact, while the other focuses on attention. Imagine two videos. One gets 3 million views, people watch it, laugh, scroll, and forget it by tomorrow. The second one gets 150 views. One person watches it, they finally start going to the gym, they begin saving money, and they decide to start creating instead of consuming. Years later, that video is still the reason they changed. So which video was actually more successful? Because one generated attention, while the other created impact. I think social media has taught us to celebrate attention when we should be celebrating impact. Which brings me back to where we started. Scale. 500 views. It sounds small when you compare it to massively successful videos pulling in millions of views. But imagine I told you tomorrow that you had to walk onto a stage and speak in front of 500 people. You'd probably spend all day preparing, you'd rehearse what you were going to say, and more importantly, you'd be nervous because 500 people is a lot of people. Personally, I know I would be freaking out because I've never enjoyed public speaking. That's one of the reasons I like YouTube. I can get my message out, but I can cut my awkward pauses, my rambling, the moments where I completely lose my train of thought. But if you put 500 real people in front of me, that would probably be the biggest audience I've ever spoken to. Social media didn't make 500 smaller, it just widened our lens and reshaped what we think is normal. So if you only remember one thing from this video, remember this. When my video got 11 views, I thought I had failed. But I wish I could go back and tell that version of myself something. Those weren't just 11 views, they were 11 people. 11 people who gave a complete stranger a chance. 11 people who chose to spend part of their day watching something I created. And if even one of them learned something, or felt inspired to create something themselves, or maybe just watched the video while eating dinner, because I know I'm personally guilty of needing to find a solid video in order to eat, then maybe, just maybe, that video was already successful. Because YouTube can measure views, it can measure subscribers, it can measure watch time, but it can't measure impact. It can't measure how that video made someone feel. And I think impact is the metric that actually matters. Social media didn't change reality, it changed what we measure. So the next time you achieve something, whether it's your first video, your first mile, your first $100 saved, or your first 10 subscribers, don't ask yourself, how does this compare to everyone else? Ask yourself, did I make progress? Did I help someone? Because if the answer is yes, then maybe one view is enough.